Look, I think most demands of Namibians, both young and old at this stage, and it's in all parties' manifestos, is the aspect of housing and employment. We've got a youth unemployment which is standing at about 40 something percent. So the most parties, including her, in their manifesto, in their promises, those are the things that they're aiming to change, and those are the things also that the electorate is expecting them to prioritize, which is employment and housing.
Henry, it's not unusual for politicians to make very big promises during campaigns, but how is she likely to respond to the demands of Namibians' youth who are struggling to find jobs?
Look, I've noticed the discussion is going a lot around what is the president going to promise. But we've seen over the last 34 years, during which her party has governed this country, in that there's a certain level of continuity of the policies of the ruling party or lack thereof in some certain areas. And during the fourth, she's the fourth president, and the focus should be more on the party as opposed to her, because the observation for Namibia has been that presidents change, the party has remained the same, and therefore the policy and the approach to these particular areas or key areas such as employment and housing have remained to a certain extent the same. Purely because the party which she comes from has been ruling for 34 years, which is the SWAPO party, and they won with a majority of about 53 or 54%. So I think one should look more towards the party which has won, which is her party, and her as the leader of the party. But the policies of the party in our country have shown to be what basically dictates the policies or lack thereof.
You know, Henry, Ndaitwah is now 72, and perhaps some of the questions the young people are wondering about is whether she will be able to deliver much at this age within her 5-year term as president.
Look, I think for now, she's coming into the office as president as the current Minister of International Relations, and before that, Minister of International Relations, and currently the Vice President. But for a large time, she served as the Minister of International Relations. So currently, as we speak, there's no need really to doubt her capacity now for the next 5 years. I think the question will come to say that she's supposed to serve, if it is that it happens, this term and the next. So I think the question should rather be, will she still be able, because of her age, and we've seen that in a few countries, including yours, to serve a second term after finishing this 5-year term. But currently, and you can see from some of the videos that there's no real indication, despite being a little bit at an advanced age, that she won't be able to at least endeavor to see through the promises that she made during her campaign period.
And Henry, what kind of relationship is she likely to forge moving forward with neighboring countries?
Well, I think with neighboring countries, that one is quite standard. Most of the neighboring countries within SADC, which is basically the regional group, have been the same for the last, I think, even before Namibia's independence. And that's primarily because Namibia, a lot of these countries were supportive towards Namibia before 1989, in Namibia's struggle towards becoming an independent state from South Africa. So we're talking about countries primarily like South Africa, which is our biggest trade partner. We're talking about countries like Zimbabwe, even though the ties between the two countries at a government level aren't necessarily that entrenched, but there's a deep-rooted relationship between her party, which is the ANC, and the ZANU-PF. We're also talking about her party, which is the SWAPO party, apologies, and the ZANU-PF, and the South African party too, which is the ANC. So from a regional perspective, we do not expect to see much change. The same goes if we look upwards too, towards Namibia's relationship between us and Angola. That is a very, very important, at least for the ruling party, important historic and symbolic relationship which they have. So from a regional perspective, we do not expect to see much change. Perhaps that would be interesting from a regional perspective to see the dynamics of our relationships with Botswana, given that there has been a few tensions between the few countries, but merely based on border issues, but primarily seeing that that Botswana has seen basically a total change of government. So I think the interesting thing will be to see from a regional perspective what is Namibia's relationship going to be with, how is she going to guide it in terms of interacting with Botswana?